Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Train the Nation Business Services webinar. Today's webinar will be hosted by myself, Elliot Roberts, from the Business Development team, and Karen Livesey from our Operations team. Just a small piece about myself. I've been with Cube just over 4 years now. Joined as an account manager, and then after about a year, moved into managing our account management team. General day-to-day jobs are sort of winning new business, being involved with our tenders, and working with some of our large clients. Over to you, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Livesey. So I've been with Cube for 16 months, but I've been in the education and training sector for about 14 years. So beginning as a tutor myself and moving into quality assurance. Now obviously managing the team with Cube. Thanks, Elliot.
Karen. So just a little bit about us. Predominantly, we're an apprenticeship provider. We've been in the sector for over 30 years now. Lasted a test of times. We originally started as a hospitality provider, and then slowly moved into care, which now makes up about 60% of our business, with the remaining 40% within our business services area. This could be solely services employers, or this could be employers such as NHS who use our clinical and care qualifications as well as our business service qualifications. We also have traineeships, which we'll touch on later. They act as sort of a pre-employment tool to support people aged 16 to 24 with getting into work and giving them the confidence to be able to either go into full-time work or into an apprenticeship. Two new areas to Cube are Cube Vision and Cube Talent. Cube Vision is a set of e-learning courses online, which can be needed to support apprenticeships or can be used as a sole sitting e-learning platform for small courses. Cube Talent is our recruitment element of the business, which we'll also touch on later. Some key areas about Cube. So all of our 200 plus staff are employed by Cube directly. So if you were to give in a tutor, this is somebody who would be employed by Cube and not a freelance tutor. As a national provider, we have tutors up and down the country. Most southern tutors based down in Truro, and then we have our northern tutors up in Newcastle. So, which obviously enables us to support employers who are large and are spread across the nation. Back in July of this year, we're actually rated in the top 10 of Rate My Apprenticeship providers. So there's thousands of providers at the moment on the Row app, and we were in the top 10. So that's something we were really proud of. I think it's always really key to show some of the employers that trust us and work with us at the moment. You'll see some household names on your screen there who we've helped build their apprenticeship provision throughout the new standards and continue to do so now. One thing we like to do with our employers is talk about our successes internally and externally, and we like our employers to do the same. So on the screen is a short piece from Vicky about her experience with Cube. Traineeships, as I said earlier, they're a pre-employment tool to help people aged 16 to 24 enter work or education. So at Cube, we are the second largest provider of traineeships in the country, and have employers such as Matalan, JD Sports, and Peacocks who use these qualifications and have successfully used them over a period of time. They're actually unpaid, which sometimes does frighten employers off, but what we try to do at the start is show employers the benefits of what this does to a person and what it can do to the employer as well. So the last between 7 and 12 weeks, and what we will do there is start supporting with people's English and maths support. So if they were to go on to an apprenticeship, we've already got the ball rolling on their skills. A few benefits of traineeships. So establishing staff development. So this can capture somebody right at the start of their career, so they might not have any experience in a certain sector, and you're able to bring them into the business and teach them the ways of how you want them to work. The idea is hopefully that they'll continue into a full-time apprenticeship, into a full-time job, and then continue throughout your business as a successful employee. Big competition, so you could be offering people jobs and opportunities before they're actually there. So you could have them within your business before for people. It helps with your recruitment expenses as well. So if you've got somebody in who we've helped recruit for you onto a traineeship, and there's a position in your business that you filled, you've already got someone sort of ready made there and waiting to go into it. And one last thing, at the moment there is a £1,000 grant for every trainee that you employ. So now we'll move on to apprenticeships. So people on the call will have a different experience of apprenticeships. They'll have different knowledge of apprenticeships. So I will touch on sort of what an apprenticeship, what it involves, and then move into sort of the more in-depth things around qualification. So an apprenticeship is a work-based learning program. It's funded by the government. We'll touch on funding later because they can be funded in a variety of different ways. It's open to anybody, any age, any level. So today we'll hopefully dispel the myths that it's for 16 to 18-year-olds. Apprenticeships are actually for everybody. And since the standards come in, we've seen an increase in the different ages that have taken up apprenticeships. At Cube, we've delivered through a blended learning approach. So we have face-to-face visits. We also have our online platforms. So we can take advantage of both of those. And obviously with the apprenticeship, it's a work-based learning program. So some learning will be done at work. It will be sort of the responsibility of mentors and managers to develop that person as well. But we'll go into more depth in that in the program design element. So there's different areas that make up an apprenticeship. Gone of the world of an assessor coming in and picking some competency boxes and there's your qualification after 30 months. It changed a hell of a lot, the new standards. So there are 4 core elements. You have the skills, knowledge, behaviours, and then you've got the functional skills element, which is English and maths. Not everybody has to do their English and maths. It's built into the qualifications, but some people have to do their standalone English and maths depending on what their pre-qualifications are and if they're doing a level 2 or 3 qualification. At the start of every qualification, we do initial assessment and an initial skills assessment. This is sort of what we need to do before we start a new qualification. We need to gain the experience of what knowledge you have within that area. So, for instance, if you're put forward or you nominate yourself for a retailer level 2 qualification, and you've been working as a retailer for 4 years, what we'll do a skills assessment and we'll look to see actually if you do this qualification, can you develop? Is there enough stretch in there for you? If there isn't, we'll speak to you and your employer and say, look, we have the level 3 qualification. Can you be stretched and challenged to complete that qualification? Every qualification has a fundamental British values and safeguarding built within as part of the ESFA guidelines. And probably the biggest thing that changed in 2017 was the endpoint assessment. So each qualification, each apprenticeship that you can take now has an endpoint assessment. And this is a assessment that's carried out by an external body. So this could be City and Guilds, for instance. So you'll do your qualification with us. If there's a diploma built in, you'll complete that. And then you'll be tested at the end by an external body. Karen's now going to go through some of the benefits of apprenticeships.
Brilliant, thanks Elliot. So the first one is obviously productivity. So having a trained workforce and them having developed their skills, knowledge and behaviours through doing an apprenticeship will mean that they work far more efficiently and effectively in the workplace. So for example, we've had a team leader that's done leading people module and managing people module, and that's increased their understanding of target setting and measuring performance and leadership styles. And they've been able to apply that to their role. Another example I can give you is a customer service operator. They learn how to problem solve and exceed expectations. And again, this enables them to diffuse a situation, build key relationships with their customers, and all things that are going to make them a more rounded person. Okay, so the next slide is staff retention. So any member of staff who recognises that their employer is committed to them is going to make for a more loyal person in that workplace. It's going to give them the opportunity to grow as an employee, and it's going to mean that they're going to want to stay working for you as a business. So, for example, we've had a retail apprentice, so Elliot's just mentioned they started on a traineeship. They then moved on to a level 2 retail apprenticeship, but actually then from that they moved on to the level 3 award, and they're still working with Peacocks at the moment. And another one is in a local council. We had someone that started on a customer service practitioner course. They then went on to business admin. So they started from initially speaking to customers on the phone to then moving into a more customer facing role. And now they're actually out in the community supporting homeless people in putting them into temporary accommodation. So it's a great way to kind of keep your staff in the business. That moves nicely into upskilling. So hiring an apprentice is a great way to build a multi-skilled workforce. You can employ someone based on a specific skills gap that you have. So, for example, if you were to recruit an apprentice in like a patient-facing role in a hospital, you could, for example, put them on a customer service apprenticeship if you really wanted to hone their skills in building relationships, problem solving and stakeholder management. But you could also put them on a business admin apprenticeship, which will enable them to build their skills in mentoring, communicating effectively, managing projects, finance and IT, for example. So by upskilling your workforce, you have skilled team members ready to take the next challenge on as it arises. So that leads nicely into recruitment. So by linking any vacancies that you've got to specific apprenticeships, it will be far more appealing for any applicant. So they will see that for them, they've got some sort of financial security, because it means that they're going to be on programme with you as an employer and with us as a provider for at least 12 to 18 months. So in the current climate and global pandemic, redundancies that happen across the business and things that, you know, are always in the news at the moment, people will feel more secure in applying for an apprenticeship because they'll know that they've got that job security and that they've got a career path that's starting. So I'll move nicely over to Elliot now. Thanks, Elliot.
Thank you, Karen. A big thing I'm sure everyone's heard in the news recently are the recent government incentives that have been announced, which relate to apprenticeships. So at the moment, if you were to recruit a 16 to 18-year-old, you actually receive a £3,000 grant to take that person on. Before these incentives were there, it was a £1,000 grant. At the moment, these are here till January, but we're fully expecting it to be extended. Previously, anybody 19 plus, you wouldn't receive any funding for if you recruited them onto an apprenticeship. But at the moment, if they're 19 to 24, you'll receive £2,000, and if they're age 25 plus, you'll be provided with £1,500. But that money is for you, so that can be invested however you want it. It can be invested back into this person for training, or it can be used elsewhere within the business. Apprenticeship funding now we'll have a look at. So we work with one-man bands up to people who employ up to sort of 30,000 people within the country. So it's really important to know the different areas of how you can be funded. So if you're a non-levy payer, so that means your wage bill will be under £3 million annually per year, you will be required to pay 5% of your qualification. The other 95% will be paid by our government contract. There is something we can do with this after, which I'll show you, which is within your levy transfer. So earlier this year, we really decided to work with our larger employers to see if they would like to transfer any of their excess levy, which they weren't spending, to our small SMEs. Which sounds like, why would they do it? Well, actually, so we've had large business services employees donating to the care sector throughout the pandemic, which has been brilliant. We've actually funded over 500 care apprentices through the pandemic from money that's been transferred from our large employers. This means that our SMEs don't have to pay the 5%, especially in times like now, which is really difficult for them to sometimes have to spend. So really, the levy transfer is something that's really positive and something Cuba really is versed in, and we can support with that. I touched on it earlier around the levy payers. So anybody who has an annual wage bill of over £3 million will pay a tax, a levy into an account, which is then can be used on apprenticeships. Karen and I will now look at sort of the delivery design and which qualifications are on offer to you.
Brilliant, thanks Elliot. So apprenticeships are obviously about an individual being in the workplace developing their skills, but they will get a specialist tutor that supports that with them. And if they're also doing English and maths and need additional support, they may well get another tutor as well to support with that element of the qualification. So generally speaking, obviously COVID, a student would have had a face-to-face visit for the length of their programme, probably every 4 to 6 weeks on average, depending on how much they were through their programme, if they were slightly behind, if they needed additional support and things. But generally speaking, it's every 4 to 6 weeks. Some employers and some students were happy to also do remote delivery. So we did do some kind of delivery via Microsoft Teams or over the phone. But the majority of students did at that point prefer face-to-face. We've also got online learning, so through the Cube Vision platform that Elliot mentioned earlier, they can do short courses, longer courses that will benefit and aid them with specific areas of their award that they're trying to get. And then another key area of their delivery is what's called off-the-job training. So to kind of explain it in layman's terms, so every employer is obviously developing their staff continuously. As an apprentice new to that business, they're going to be developing themselves on a day-to-day basis. So the government dictates that an apprenticeship covers 20% off the job, which means that the student needs to be able to evidence that for 20% of their time at work, they're learning, developing their skills, honing those skills, learning new skills. And that's all documented on a form that we submit at the end. So that can be through coaching, through learning from colleagues, from doing short courses, from doing any mandatory training that they do, from doing any work on their apprenticeship. And again, this is all in work time. So that kind of explains how the delivery works. However, since COVID happened, everything's changed. Obviously, at one point, no one was allowed to really go out. So face-to-face delivery completely halted. We then moved into kind of much more advanced remote delivery. Staff were appearing on screen on their Microsoft Teams, and our visits kind of decreased to probably half an hour to an hour and a half, dependent on the organisation, to suit that business's needs. And we were able to adapt our delivery a lot better to suit what was happening in kind of the world. So our tutors on their very first visit post-COVID were having a discussion with the tutors in regards to what's happened in the business, how COVID's impacted on that, how the changes of legislation have impacted on it, how they managed to support their team, how they apply new social distancing rules. And all these things not only generated evidence for their apprenticeship in whichever sector it was, but it also increased their off-the-job. So for a period of kind of 2 months, everything in that workplace changed. They were doing things completely different, and that all contributed to off the job. So in terms of student journey, it's kind of like a collaborative program, and then that moves on nicely to program design. So go for it, Elliot.
Thank you, Karen. So we're in the world of apprenticeships at the moment, and the way the standards are designed, each employer can sort of tweak their apprenticeship and have it tailored to them. So one of the key things that we do at Cube is have a program design team, and at the start we'll sit down with you as an employer, see how we can bespoke the program to you to make sure it's relevant and fit for your workforce. What we like to try and do there is inbuild any of your current training. And what we won't do is, if you've got current training that it matches within the standard, we won't then teach it twice. We'll look to see how we can embed that into our program, and what we'll do is that we can check the competencies of what somebody knows from your delivery, and really build on what you're delivering as an employer. We can also build this onto our virtual learning system. So, for instance, if you've got your policies and procedures that you would like to, so when we're doing that unit, say of a a level 2 team leader supervisor qualification, we can then put that onto our system. So when we're teaching about that, we'll actually be teaching your policies, your procedures. Makes it really feel like it's your qualification. On the screen now, you'll see what our employer journey looks like. So first of all, we have a getting to know you stage, which is probably starting today with some of you who don't know us. So it's a getting to know you, finding out, are we the right provider for you? Does it fit? Are we able to service what you need as an employer moving forward? And that's where we'll sort of try and, if you do agree to work with us, we'll help you build your sort of apprenticeship strategy if you need support on that. Then we'll move on to the program design, ensuring that the qualifications that are being delivered are fit for purpose and are going to work with your business. We'll then agree on a roadmap. Karen is going to show you a roadmap shortly in the webinar, but we'll agree on a roadmap at the start. This can be tweaked as we work through to say, actually, at the moment, we're really liking your remote delivery. Can you move this session remote? Or actually, this one we don't think it's going to work remotely. Can you do it face to face? So that is tweakable throughout the program. Every account that we work with has a dedicated account manager who will sit in my team. What we like to do is have that one point of contact. So the tutors that left there is to tutor and help support with learning, and then you have an account manager who can pick up everything else. At Cube, we're really big on celebrating success. We have an annual awards evening, often held down in London, for all our employers and selected learners to attend, which is a really great evening, and we've got some information on that later. We also can support with individual award ceremonies. So let's take DHL, for instance, as an example. Obviously, they've got multiple warehouses across the country that we work with, and they like to have individual ceremonies at each warehouse to celebrate the success of their apprenticeships.
Brilliant, thanks Elliot. So moving on to the student journey now. So the first thing that we will do is make sure that the programme that the student and the employer is selected is actually the right one for them. So as Elliot said earlier, if we think that someone's got, let's say, 4 years experience in retail and they're going on to do a Retail 2 award, we might actually say, look, it's too basic for you. You've got all these skills, knowledge and behaviours already, so let's develop you and push you to do the Retail 3. So then we move on to the application process, which is where our business development team are involved, and they're basically making sure that that student is eligible to do the qualification based on certain kind of government guidelines and things. But then we meet the student for the first time during the enrolment process. And in that enrolment process, we carry out the skills assessment that Elliot spoke about earlier. So it will break down the standards that the student's chosen to do into skills, knowledge and behaviour. And we have a very in-depth discussion with the student and the employer for about an hour probably, to establish what skills, behaviours and knowledge they've got in those individual sections. So it enables us to then see, A, if it's the right qualification for them, B, if they're going to need additional support in particular areas, and see how we can support them, what we can do to support the business and them to achieve that award. So the enrolment process generally takes place face to face. As I said, at the moment with COVID, a lot of these have been happening successfully remotely. And during that, they'll carry out a functional skills assessment. So they'll complete an initial assessment on English and maths, which basically determines what their current level and ability is in that area. So again, we can see where we need to support them. And it will be a case of filling in all the kind of government-led paperwork that enables them to be a part of the programme and start to build that collaborative relationship between the student, the employer and ourselves, basically being able to support them then for the rest of the qualification. So they'll start working with their tutor then, as I explained earlier, every kind of 4 to 6 weeks they'll get a visit. And we'll be looking at the roadmap and making sure we're delivering every element of the qualification to them. And again, collaborating that with you as employers to make sure that they're on the right part at the right time based on what's happening in your business. So I'll touch on that a little bit later when we talk about the roadmap. So the student is obviously at the heart of everything that we do. They will get quarterly reviews, and the skills assessment I mentioned earlier is also reviewed quarterly to see if they're on the right track, to see if they're making the improvements in the areas they need to. And we get the employer involved in the reviews as well, so we can see that they're being supported, and you can come up with any ideas or suggestions of things where you think that person needs to be developed further. So once obviously they've gone through all the modules and we think that they've achieved everything that they need to, they go through to what's known the gateway process. So this is the point where we have a collaborative meeting between the employer, the student and ourselves, sit down, look at what the students achieved and say whether we think they're ready or not to go into endpoint assessment. 9 times out of 10 they will be ready. If not, there's just a few tweaky things that they need to maybe look at, so develop their knowledge in this area where it's still a little bit lacking. So once we're all happy, then the gateway process starts, and at that point Cube kind of take a little bit of a step back. It's kind of like a driving test, so we've done all the learning, we've done all the support, we've kind of got them to the stage where they need to be at, and then it moves into endpoint assessment, which is done with an external party. So as Elliot said earlier, that might be City and Guilds, that might be OAL, and that's the point the student then takes, kind of put it into context, their driving test as such. But at that point they can either come out with a pass or in some cases a merit and distinction, to show that they've obviously achieved that apprenticeship. The graduation ceremony then for certain employers, as Elliot said, with DHL can then take place. Some of the NHS employers like to make a massive deal out of their apprentices that have achieved, and again do a graduation ceremony for that. Thanks, Elliot. Okay, so moving on. So for an apprentice, this is our HR roadmap, and it's looking at specifically the HR qualification and how it kind of works. As Elliot said earlier, this is interchangeable. So you can see as you go through, for the induction stage, we'd obviously induct you to the programme, meet the student, check eligibility, etc., everything that I've just gone through, and then each stage thereafter, these circles represent the modules that they do. So it's interchangeable. So for example, you'll see on the bottom row the first module is personal development. So for example, if you've got a new team member to your business that is starting in HR, so they've not got the skills and knowledge and experience that they need to kind of develop themselves, we will be able to work collaboratively with you to move that personal development module to the start. So that's the first thing that we can focus on with that student, and we can start to work with you as an employer to build up their personal development plan, to identify areas that you want them to improve on in the next kind of 4 to 6 weeks, let's say, and then moving forward to the longer term goals. And it might be then, for example, that you have someone that needs to know more about the HR legislation, the information, etc. So the second row down, managing HR information, we can then maybe do that next. So this whole thing is interchangeable based on you as a business and what you think would work for you. As long as we cover everything we need to in order for the student to successfully go through that gateway process, it doesn't really matter what order it goes in. We completely work at your mercy and work for what suits you as an employer. Thanks, Elliot.
Here we're looking at our steps for success model. I think a big point at the moment is that, as I touched on it, apprenticeships aren't just for people starting out in their journey. So we have apprenticeships available from level 2 up to level 6 of our partner, the Open University. But internally ourselves, we deliver level 2, 3, 4, and 5 qualifications. I think what we do with employers at the start is have a look at the job roles that they can match their apprenticeships. And then we obviously try to put a bit of a test. We don't call it that in all areas. We can change that for different employers. But what we want to show that somebody can actually do their first apprenticeship at a level 5, which have had multiple people start on sort of ops departmental manager qualifications at level 5. So this really opens out apprenticeships to everybody within the business. Working in the sector, we know a lot of training budgets were cut in 2017 when the levy came in. And we had to find ways to help employers use the apprenticeship levy to replace this. And obviously the steps to success and opening up the qualifications to everybody really helped with that.
So these are some of the apprenticeships that we obviously do within the business services kind of sector. So we've got customer service practitioner, which is obviously geared towards people in a customer facing role, whether that be over the phone or face to face. Customer service specialist is the level 3, so that goes into more in-depth detail, and it's geared towards more someone of not necessarily in leadership, but they might be mentoring people. HR support level 3 basically is what it says on the tin, so it's for someone that's working in a HR environment. Business administrator level 3, again, that can be covering someone who's an administrator or someone who's got some sort of area of leadership, mentoring of people. Big thing in business admin is there's quite a large project, so it really does work well in honing your employees' skills in terms of project management. So team leader supervisor, geared towards kind of leadership, low-level management people. Will cover all elements of people management, managing self, etc., and really develop that person into becoming a rounded individual and being able to successfully manage a small or large team, which then obviously could progress onto the ODM, the departmental, the ODM, so the operations delivery manager. So business admin level 4. So this is more geared towards someone who's got a lot of management kind of experience behind them. So it's going to look at more kind of strategic management processes. Associate project manager, exactly what it says. So it's aimed at someone who is in a project management role or does elements of project management from start to finish within their role. And then operations departmental manager is our level 5 qualification, which is aimed at high level managers, area managers, things like that. Thanks, Elliot.
No worries. Cube's e-learning platform, Cube Vision, was launched early this year. We noticed that if people weren't suitable for an apprenticeship or they had extensive knowledge, that we didn't have a product that could replace this. So what we've done here, we've built a number of small, short courses to support these people and support businesses. Throughout the pandemic, we actually made these courses available online for our employers for free to try, and we've received some really good feedback with that. And what we've also received is feedback on what courses could be built and we could use, and that's actually happening at the moment. So we have a list of courses, and if there isn't anything on there that was suitable for you, but you see something that could be suitable and you'd like it, we can have an open conversation and we can look to design that for you as well. I think a big thing we pride ourselves on at Cube is everybody having an account manager. So once we start this relationship with you, it's really important that it's the longevity of the relationship, and we think having a dedicated account manager does this. This account manager can help to plan with your funding, plan with your spends, ensuring that you don't go over your budget within your levy account. They also will support on the reporting element of it. So it might be each month that you'd like a report on all of your students. The account manager will pull that together and present that for you. They can support with your recruitment element of it. So put you in contact with the right people within Cube Talent to do that, and just generally be there as support and help with the strategy of apprenticeships. We have a dedicated marketing team, which our marketing team is solely there to support our employers. So as you see on the screen there, we do a lot of branding, a lot of design on mentor handbooks, traineeship books. It might be a booklet to explain the relationship between it's John Lewis and Cube delivering the warehouse level 2 qualification. We produce anything that sort of your request. Oh, sorry guys, I'm not sure what's happened with our slides there. So what we're looking at here is our engagement days. It should be engagement days / webinars now. So obviously in the new world, we're doing a lot of our engagement through webinars. Previously and hopefully in the future, what we like to do is get out at site level and speak to people about apprenticeships and opportunities. We find that obviously we work with apprenticeship managers and L&D and HR who know everything about apprenticeships, the ins and outs of them. Excuse me, but at site level this might be different, so we like to get out there and speak to people, educate them and answer any questions. Celebrating success. We've spoken about our sort of our national awards that we do and supporting with individual awards, but we also have things like Apprenticeship of the Month, Apprentice of the Month, Employer of the Month. We support with helping with applications for awards or the National Apprenticeship Awards, and we support with writing those applications. We also have a lot of press releases. This might be national, or it could be within local press to celebrate our success with apprenticeships. I'm not sure what you can see on the screen, but I'm seeing our pictures from our awards evening back in 2019. Unfortunately, this year we had to cancel, but we did actually have an online ceremony, which was really a great celebration still. You'll see, for anybody into your sports and athletics, Colin Jackson appearing on the screen there. He's actually been our host for the last 2 years and would have been again this year. A real ambassador for apprenticeships and Cube. Our Colin. And on that note, Karen and I will open up the floor to any questions you may have.
Yep, we've had a few questions come in. The first one, does each apprentice need to have a separate mentor, or could one person in theory mentor more than one apprentice?
I can take that if you want, Elliot.
Thank you, Karen.
So yes, so anyone can kind of mentor as many as they need to. So for example, in John Lewis that we work with in terms of our warehousing supply chain operations apprenticeship, there are obviously set shifts around that. So like someone who manages, let's say, the night shift as a team leader would be managing and mentoring maybe 4 or 5 apprentices within that kind of shift. And then likewise for the day shift and likewise for the afternoon shift. So it just depends if they've got the skills to be able to mentor someone really, but they can mentor as many as needed, obviously without pushing themselves to the limit and not having the time to dedicate to that individual.
Excellent. The second question, is there an upper or lower age limit for someone to enrol on an apprenticeship?
No, apprenticeships are open for everybody. So you need to be 16 or above to partake in an apprenticeship. And I think last year our oldest apprentice was 64 at an NHS trust on a facilities management qualification. So yeah, it shows actually for everybody and working for everybody.
Right, excellent. And the last question, will the apprentice need to leave the office 1 day a week to complete their 20% off the job training, or can it be done at their sort of normal workstation?
No, absolutely. Everything happens in-house, can be done in the workstation. A lot of colleges as providers will send people out to do the off-the-job elements, but as a work-based learning provider, everything's done in the workplace for us during the employee's work time, and all the off-the-job is generated as part of their role that they're doing or the apprenticeship that they're taking part in.
All right, excellent. That's all the questions.
Great,
Thanks,
thank you.
Luke.
Just a bit of housekeeping, guys. We have got some upcoming webinars as well that are sector specific, so they're on the screen now. So we'd love it if you are able to join them or know any colleagues who would want to join them as well. Many thanks for joining, guys, and hope to speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.